So I just see it as like, if you believe everything happens for a reason, then you do not fall under the category that your life is in your hands. And I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that, because they're like, well, no, everything happens for a reason, but then I also choose my path. But it's like, it's not how it works. You don't get to choose your path and then say everything happens for a reason. If you fall into the category of everything happens for a reason, that your path has already been chosen for you, and as much as you're taking a left turn or a right turn, it's already been chosen. Yes, you are physically making the decision, but the decision has already been made for you. And I think a lot of people don't like to live in that, in that mindset of like, well, then do I even have control on my life?
Yeah.
Like, is it in the control of someone else? Then at that point, let me just sit back and not do anything.
Chemical X.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Chemical X podcast. It's your girl, Veronica.
And your other girl, Alessia.
And we're back here again, guys. If you haven't already, come on. It's been 4 years. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. There's so many places you could leave 5 stars nowadays. Also, don't forget, we do have merch available on our website, chemicalxpodcast.com. Grab yourself a very cute cap for summer, baseball cap, trucker cap. Go check them out. They are super cute. So yeah, today we're talking about everything that we love most in this world, and it's being toxic. The thing that people accuse us of, on the daily.
Does it really make us that toxic, though, if we're aware of it? I think that, no, you're not at the same level as somebody who's not aware of it.
I actually think you're worse.
Because you know about it and you're choosing not to change.
Yeah, I think you're worse if you know about it. And
but don't they say, like, accepting and knowing is, like, 90% of the work? 10% is, like, changing? How do you fix something you don't know you have?
Like, yes, but you're not saying, you're saying, like, isn't it better? I mean, I think it's worse if you're continuing to do it knowingly.
No, I think it's worse if you don't know you have it. Because it's like, where's your self-awareness? No?
Yeah, they're both bad, honestly. They're both bad.
Because I think if you have it, then you could be like, guys, I know, I'm so sorry I have this. Like, I'm working on it. Like, you're aware.
Yeah.
But if you're like, we all know that one person who just doesn't know, and it's like you can't even have the conversation with them because it's like, it's not even going to stick in their brain.
Absolutely. So, guys, I'm sure we've all had an experience with somebody who's toxic in our life or who suffers from a victim mentality. So if you don't know what victim mentality is,
well, let me tell you what it is.
Well, let me tell you what it is.
What's your definition of victim mentality?
I didn't know it was a fucking subjective
thing. I can start if you want.
I mean, I for me, like for everyone, I'm pretty sure victim mentality is just like when you feel like the world is always against you, you lack accountability, you're constantly like blaming everyone else for your problems, and you just have no sense of like accountability for any of the things that happen in your life, and you just think the world is against you. Did I already say that? Yes. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much my definition.
Yeah.
You think the world is against you, and you're just, nothing is ever your fault. Mm-hmm. And that's the scariest place to be in, I think.
Yeah. And I think majority of the time, someone who's toxic also has a victim mentality, because they kind of go hand in hand in a way where like someone who's toxic doesn't recognize their behavior or won't admit to their behavior. And they're just like, well, it's your fault. It's your this. And they're like constantly deflecting the problems. So I think that they actually like go hand in hand and make it even worse, because it's so hard to deal with somebody that not only has toxic tendencies, but also has a victim mentality.
Do you think that the people who have victim mentality, do you think they're aware they have this issue?
I think very little people are aware, because it's something that like you truly believe the world is out to get you. Like it's not even.
But do you think deep down in their mind, they maybe know a little bit like, okay, it's me, but it's just easier to blame it on everything else. So I'm just going to blame it on that so that I don't have to take accountability. I'm sure deep down they must know that, okay, listen, everything that happens in life, like at a certain point, you have to be like, I'm taking accountability. This is in my hands. This is me who has the ability to change this.
Well, victim mentality is like an unhealthy coping mechanism. So I actually don't think that they're aware at all. And I think it comes from a lack of self-awareness. So it's like, I actually do feel like I want to say 90% of people that do have a victim mentality have no idea that they're acting that way, or that they're like suffering from a victim mentality, because they're so deeply like psychologically into it that they really truly believe. Like, I'm not even just blaming it on everyone else. It's just like everyone else is against me.
Okay, but what if you have parts in your life and certain things that you have victim mentality for, but not everything? Like, you can have self-awareness in a lot of areas, and then others where you're just like, no, you cannot see the other side. You cannot see where your faults are. So I think that's where I'm like, maybe you could kind of be aware of it, but you're just so stuck in your ways that it's hard for you to like change your mentality on. So I don't know if it's like no one ever knows they have it. I think at some point you must know.
I mean, the whole basis of victim mentality is that you truly believe the world is against you. It's not so much like a toxic tendency where you're like manipulating. And I think people who manipulate like low-key know they're manipulating someone or gaslighting someone.
Well, sometimes even when you manipulate, you don't even know because it comes so natural to you. But yeah, I hear it.
But for the most, like, I would say more so than not, people do know kind of when they're doing something. Whereas I feel like because victim mentality is a coping mechanism, it's almost like embedded in you and you don't even recognize that like you're lacking the accountability in any situation. You just like genuinely think like the world is against me, like this always happens to me, like I'm just so unlucky and like that kind of stuff, you know? You just really truly believe it. And that's why it's so hard for somebody who has victim mentality to be like aware of it, because you're so like, I'm the victim that you never actually think to look upon yourself and be like, what am I doing wrong?
And I also...
So sometimes when you want to, you know, flip someone off, we go with the classic middle finger. You know what I mean?
How old are you?
I mean, if you're 10 years old, you do this. You remember when this meant like, fuck you? Or you do this, like, I'm not using my middle finger. You know, like you're a little fucking prick. I used to do that for sure. But thankfully, Every Jules has just given us like more and more ways to tell somebody to fuck off. And I love it. I'm here for it because I'll tell somebody to fuck off any fucking day.
Actually, you won't.
I'll use gadgets.
Yeah.
I'll use gadgets and gizmos. So today I found this ring in our beautiful PR box. And I was like, oh my God, so cute. Live, laugh, love. And then I opened it to a little surprise. And it says fuck off on the inside. This belongs to me. Inside a heart, fuck off. You know what, guys? If you're looking to tell somebody to fuck off, head on to Every Jules because I'm actually surprised with how much products they have to do just that.
So head on to Every Jules and use our discount code ChemicalX at checkout to receive 20% off your entire order. I also don't think it's something somebody will confront you about and be like, you have victim mentality. I feel like it's just like a friendship is gonna die down because of it. No one's gonna sit you down and be like, well, it's because you're this way.
Yeah.
Because a victim mentality will take that and it'll just go
They'll
over
just be like,
their
yeah,
head.
everybody's against me.
Yeah, but like I feel like if you maybe have it and you don't know you have it, are people coming into your life and then leaving all the time?
I think it's also important to like realize who you go to for advice, because if you always find yourself going to that one negative friend who's gonna like feed into your negativity, that's probably because they're the only ones that's like feeding into the fact that you did nothing wrong, you're the victim in this situation. And I think that's important because sometimes obviously, yeah, you go to the friends that you want their type of advice from, but if you're never willing to hear the side of the story where you might be wrong, because everybody will have those friends that'll like call you out and be like, no, I think you could have done this better, or, I don't agree with you here. And if you're constantly avoiding those people, I think that you need to like have self-awareness and be like, okay, why am I always going to the most negative person in the group for advice? You know, because are they going to tell me what I want to hear?
Gratification.
Exactly. You want somebody to be like, yes, it is your fault. You know, you want to be babied. And I find it so hard. It's like you said, it's so difficult to even confront somebody when they have a victim mentality, because they're just literally going to be like, see, this is what I mean. Everyone's against me. And it's like, oh my, it's the most frustrating tendency to deal with, because you try to express to someone that like, they're like just pitying themselves and it's like it's not getting you anywhere and like you can't do anything, and they're like, oh my God, like I'm just trying to express myself, like how can you say this, like every time I try to talk you just don't listen to me, you don't care about my feelings. And it's like, oh my God, you know, like when somebody is so stuck in it, there's nothing you could do to get them out of it.
Nothing.
Anything you say, it's just further fueling the fact that like the world is against them.
That's why I feel like people in my life who've had that, I've just distanced myself from.
Yeah.
I've never really tried to sit down and explain it to them. I feel like it's one of those things where like you'll learn on your own path when something happens to you, and it's like it's not going to be me who's going to be able to teach you or tell you.
I looked into it a little bit, and apparently you can develop a victim mentality if you went through like a lot of like trauma, or like if somebody close to you betrayed you, or if something like really severe happened in your life, or you went through like a lot of hardship and you didn't know how to like cope with it in a healthy way, so you just resorted to being like, oh, the world is against me. And it's true, because I feel like the people that I do know that have a victim mentality are people that have been through a lot.
Right.
And that's why it's even harder, because for these people, if you try to give your point of view, they'll always kind of deflect this like, well, you don't know what I've been through, or like, you don't know what it's like. And it's like, I understand that, but there's also healthier ways to cope with things. And I think if you're always using like the comfort blanket of like, well, you don't get it, and like, you don't know what it's like, and like, you just don't understand me, and like, the whole world is against me, I couldn't have done those things, you can never get through to someone like that, you know? And that's essentially how it starts, is just not having the right way to deal with things, and then just kind of blaming the whole world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who have victim mentality, they compare a lot, actually. They're always like, you don't understand because you haven't been through it. And you can be going through something completely different and still be understanding of someone's feelings. But I hate when we categorize people and put people in a box, and we assume that they can't relate to it, or my life is completely different than yours, but we have this ability to like connect to people. So when I feel like people just think like it's all about comparing, and it's not about like learning, growing, and like seeing someone else's point of view, that's where I'm like,
Yeah,
you know?
and also I don't think that you need to go through obviously when you go through something, you really understand it to a deeper level, but I don't think that you need to go through something in order to understand. I think you could be empathetic for a situation.
You can be, yeah.
And like, I feel like people, like you said, they'll always deflect this, like, yeah, but you don't get it because you haven't been through it. But it's like, okay, but I could still get it. Like, I could still understand you, and I can actually still help you.
And
but you just don't want to know that.
Exactly. And sometimes somebody who is saying that, you just don't get it, it's because they don't want to get it.
Yeah,
they're not open to it. They want to live in this fantasy world where it's like, my life is shit, and like feel bad for me. But it's like, okay, so then I choose to feel bad for you, and then what? And then what?
Absolutely. 100%. And I also think people like that love to be pitied. I mean, obviously it goes with the territory, but it's like, you can just tell when somebody like loves being pitied. And I'm someone that, I know it's gonna make me sound like a really fucking heartless bitch, but it's really hard to get my pity for something when I don't feel like
you deserve it.
Yeah, but I feel like that's so mean to say. I just
truth.
like, I find I'm a very logical person, and and I feel like we're both very like strong-willed.
Yeah.
So we'll be empathetic to a situation where we feel like, oh my God, like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But then in other cases, I can be a little bit insensitive in a way where I'm just like, I don't see why you're acting the way you're acting. Like, I feel like this is a little bit more dramatic, or you're like looking for pity, and I'm the fucking wrong person to go to if you're looking for pity, because I'll literally be like,
no,
sorry, like, you ain't gonna get it here, you know? Like, because I find I just have this very like, I don't know. I think sometimes
I have like two sides to that. I have this like one side that I always want to agree with someone and have that relatability, and I want to make them feel comfortable so that they can like open up to me. So I think sometimes that's where I struggle, where I'm like, let's say two friends are talking to me to advice, I'll be like, I agree with you and I also agree with you. I'll still give my opinion and say this is where I think like you're wrong or whatnot, but I think sometimes I struggle with like, because, you know, whenever someone tells you a story, it's like it's kind of going to be from like their end. And so it's like, I agree with you.
I agree with the way you're telling the story.
I agree. But also like, you know, you have to be, it's tough sometimes when like, you know, that person is not ready to hear the truth. So you're just almost going to tell them what they want to hear because you rather not deal with the aftermath of it. I mean, I found myself in situations like that for sure.
There's so many people that even when I do have an opinion, I just don't voice it. Not because like I'm intentionally like trying not to help you, but because I know and I've tried and I know exactly what's going to happen if I do tell you, and it's actually just going to make it worse. Yeah. And you're just going to like feel like I'm not agreeing with me.
You're just going to distance yourself from me, let's say.
Exactly, 100%. And sometimes it's just better to like hear someone out. And don't get me wrong, like I'll literally always be there for anyone who wants to talk, and I'll always hear you out. But I also have like a really like, I feel like I have like this really logical line where I'm like, okay, when it hits a certain point, it's like, listen, you need to either relax or you need to like wake up or something, because I'm not gonna sit here. like for me, I'm a very solution-based person. And
Yeah.
anytime something happens, I will always be like, how can I make this better? How can I fix this? What did I do wrong? Or like, where can we go from here?
Yeah.
Even like, let's say when we get into fights, we're always like, how do we fix this? Like,
Yeah.
we're never like the type of people who are like, you stay mad, I stay mad, we don't talk for a month. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we're always trying to find a solution.
Do you think it's because we have no choice? Let's say you're getting in a fight with a friend. You've apologized on your end. They're probably choosing to just like not apologize, but just agree to disagree. And then it's like, okay, where do we go from here? And they still want to sit and sob and be mad about it. Like
Yeah.
they're not ready to like move on and find a solution. Those are normally people who have victim mentality.
Absolutely.
They're not like, okay, where do we go from here? They want to hold on to that pain. Like
Yeah.
being hurt and being sad like brings them joy in a way.
Absolutely. And it's like a comfort zone to know that, like, I guess this kind of plays into it, but I find like it's kind of like a toxic tactic to do. And something that like I experienced like in my past relationship is when something would happen and, you know, we would get into a fight about it or whatever, and like they did something like really wrong and I would like confront them about it. It would always be like this big pity party of like, you know, like, oh, I can never, like, you didn't give me a chance, like you're asking too much of me, or like you
know this about me, like you know that I
not
can't.
even you know this about me, but like I always, like, I'm never good enough for you, like it's never good enough, like I'm always doing something wrong, and just kind of like this pity party and like very much victim mentality, but in a way where it's used against me. And then in that sense, it's like I'm trying to call you out so that we can actually solve the problem, but now you're just taking it as like I'm attacking you, and I'm someone who's really aware of my words, and I will go out of my way to say it in a way where it's like productive. Obviously I'm normal and sometimes I'll fucking not be productive, but like just to say, like, in general, I'm trying to be productive. And when you're talking to someone who's like that, it's like you just can't get through to them, and it's the most frustrating thing, because then now somehow this is on you, and now you made them feel bad and whatever, and it had to be this whole thing. And the craziest part is like, let's say like something would happen and he would do something wrong, he would be like so mad at himself that he couldn't like talk to me because he was like so mad that he did that, but like mad at himself. So then it's like I'm the one losing out because you're mad at yourself. Do you get what I'm saying?
I know exactly.
And it's almost like a punishment
to
me. It's like you're trying to low-key punish me in a way by like being in this like sulking mood and this pity party and like so mad and so depressed. Like you don't even realize it yourself. And I used to always say this, but like you're not even aware of it, but this is actually a way to make me feel bad for something I didn't even do. But like you can't handle the fact that you're in the wrong, so you need to hurt me somehow because you feel bad.
Yeah.
You feel bad, and the only way to like deal with that emotion, to deal with guilt, I find, is to like feel bad for yourself.
Yeah. Do you think that everyone a little bit has victim mentality?
For sure. For sure. I mean, like,
I'm trying
there's
to think
always
of a
been
time where I had it so that I can
You might not
explain.
even know.
No, there's definitely been times for sure.
I mean, I think sometimes, especially when things are like really sensitive
What about
to
that
us,
last episode?
like
Still
really
on the fill.
like if we're really sensitive to something or like a specific situation, it's a lot easier to like slip into victim mentality because you're like already sensitive and you're like, oh my god, the world is against me. You know what I mean? And I think I've definitely done it too, though. I think I've definitely been
Everyone's done it. I just think there's
sure.
people who like grow up and like their family teaches them that they're always right, they're always number one, they're never wrong, and so that they grow up and then they get in the real world and then they realize that mommy and daddy are not always there, and they're not always going to be there to tell you you're the winner, because you're not in life always going to be the winner.
Yeah.
And I had a girlfriend growing up where we were on the same soccer team, and
Somehow soccer always gets brought up.
And her dad always had victim mentality. Like it was just like one of those things because my parents were friends with them. And you really see it because it came through with even like the girl who was on my team. Like anything that happened was never her fault. It was because the pull went a little bit to the right, and it's like she couldn't see because a player went in front of her eye. And it's like at some point it's like you let the ball go in and it's okay and it's normal.
Yeah.
And it's okay that a goal went in, but there doesn't need to be like a explanation for every single thing and why it's not pinned on you.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't think we can ever grow and like become super successful in ourselves if we can't admit where we went wrong. I think that's the hardest part. It's like victim mentality people have a really hard time growing and becoming successful and like being productive and working on a goal.
Absolutely.
They struggle because it's like, well, everything they do, one thing that goes the wrong way, it's like, oh, well, it's not going to work out because of this. Like they can't overcome the speed bumps.
Yeah.
Like I don't think many successful people live in victim mentality.
No.
Never.
You know what they say, like success is built off failures. And if you're not able to go through failures, then how can you ever be successful?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I see, you know, struggling with victim mentality, it's a lot of them, I always see them like, you know, I'm so disappointed in myself. I wasted so much time. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And they're always in this like, oh, pity party phase, you know,
It's
like
all that
I
talking
never
you're doing?
got, you know, the opportunities and like no one wants to hire me and I can't get a job or whatever. And it's just so frustrating because those people, I guarantee you, if they're complaining about like wasted time and like, oh, I didn't, you know, never got these opportunities, in a year from now, they're going to have done nothing to change that.
Yeah.
And in a year from then, they're going to have done nothing, because the problem is when you always view the world as like, it's almost
doing
like
you wrong.
And almost like you take away your kind of empowerment in a way, like your power. You take away your power. Like you make yourself this helpless person who has no ability to do anything. And that's actually the complete opposite of how I see it. Like for me, anything is possible. It's like, I just need to want to do it. And there's some things that I'm very aware that I'm like, I know I could do this, but I don't want to. Like, for example, if I want to be a doctor, I could do it. Tomorrow, I could start studying my ass off. I know that one day I could be a doctor. I just don't want to. That's the big factor here. But like, I could do anything. And the problem is with people that suffer from victim mentality is they remove the power from their life and they leave themselves helpless and be like, oh, like, I can't do these things because like I didn't, you know, couldn't do this and I don't have money for school, or I can't do that, or I wasted too much time. And they just come up with all these excuses and then they keep themselves stuck in that miserable place, which only like makes it worse and makes you more miserable.
I think if you're feeling like you're like listening to this and you're like, oh wait, like maybe like am I victim mentality? Break down any like goal, dream, or thing you wanted, and then ask yourself like why you never pursued it. And then when you start listing the reasons why, that's kind of going to bring you into why you never did it, and kind of like your negative thoughts that kind of portrayed into victim mentality. And then if you break down like, oh, like I never did it because like it was too expensive, then you have to ask yourself, why didn't I get that other job to be able to afford it to do it? Like trace back to why it never happened, and then that's the reason you've had victim mentality.
Absolutely.
And I think when you live in victim mentality, it's just like not a good feeling for you too mentally, because every day you're still thinking of that thing, right? So if it's something you want to do or a way you're feeling, you're still dealing with it. So like you choosing not to do it doesn't make your life any better. Even if you decide to be like pity party, my life is shit, this happened because like yada, yada, yada. It's still like it makes you feel good for, I think, for a little bit of time, but not forever. At some point you literally start talking to yourself like, I'm an idiot, I'm a loser, like why can't I do it? Like you start like punching yourself for it.
Which only feeds more into, you know, the miserableness. And I also think when you have that mentality, like nothing is ever solved in your life, there's always going to be a lot of problems, because it's very hard to come to a solution when you're like so unself-aware. So I'm sure you have like a lot of beef with people, and I'm sure there's like always issues in your relationship, in your friendships, with your family. Like when you're constantly not able to take accountability, like it gets in the way. And like you said, like people will push you away because you're just like, it's so hard to speak to somebody that can never take accountability for something.
In life, there's things that happen that are unexpected all the time, that are not like, okay, it happens, shit, that's life. How do we come from it? And I think a lot of people forget that like there's shit that happens in every single person's life. Yeah, some people might have been handed a better life, others haven't, but for the most part, everyone deals with shit, regardless of who you are. So it's like everyone still faces all of that, and it's just like how they decide to like turn it to a positive. So it's like, okay, shit that happened, like how am I gonna turn that into something that like will give me something in this world, you know? Like I feel like we also need those things to happen in order for us to be like, oh yeah, like that's what I need to do. Or like even just acknowledging the fact that you're like, I got in a fight with my friend, like we're no longer talking, okay? Just sitting in your thoughts and being like, okay, like this is where I think like she went wrong. There's always a part of it that's going to be your fault and the person's fault. But I think victim mentality people, nothing's on them. But I think if you like sit in your thoughts and you're like, okay, where could I have done differently? Like, where am I wrong? And where could I have, I don't know, like, been helpful in this situation?
Yeah.
Like, what did I do in order to trigger that person? And what can I do moving forward in order to avoid that the next time? So it's like, sometimes even if something doesn't happen and you think it's your fault, there's always something you could learn and change from it that will bring you into like a healthier like relationship with yourself and people.
For sure. So speaking on that, I wanted to read a post because I had seen a post of like victim mentality versus an empowered mentality. And it's just kind of like something that somebody would say if they had a victim mentality, and how you should actually think like if you want to change your mind to have a more empowered mentality. So like, first one is, no one respects me. Everyone just takes advantage of my kindness. Okay. And then let's say you had an empowered mentality, you'd think, I'm feeling resentful. Where can I set a boundary? Am I saying yes when I actually don't have the bandwidth for it? And that's so true. Like, I feel like I've even found myself being like overwhelmed and stuff. And sometimes the only person you have to blame is yourself. It's like, okay, well, everyone's expecting these things out of you because you said yes. And like, you need to take accountability for the fact that you didn't respect your own boundary, you know?
Because then you just start resenting.
Yeah. Victim mentality. The world will never understand highly sensitive people. I'll never be taken seriously. Empowered mentality. Even though it hurts to feel misunderstood, I know that there are people out there who do understand me. Loving and accepting myself is what matters most.
Speaking to yourself is like the most powerful thing. And if you speak down to yourself, like, you only have yourself. So if you speak down to yourself, you're only going to go down.
Absolutely.
Like, you need to speak highly about yourself. Even sometimes if you don't believe it, you just got to do it.
Absolutely. And the last one that I think is great is like victim mentality will say, nothing ever works out for me. It's pointless to even try. Versus empowered mentality, just because this thing didn't work out doesn't mean nothing ever does. It's a bummer that this didn't work, but something will in the future.
100%.
And it's so true. Like, if you're always on this, like you said, if you're always telling yourself nothing works out, everyone hates me, everything's against me, I'm so unlucky, then that's what's going to happen to you, because you're honestly just going to stop yourself from going forward and stop yourself from succeeding.
Do you ever realize, guys, when things are going really good for you, you're like, wow, like it's like one after another. I don't know if you've ever realized that, but normally when things are going really good in your life and you're like you're almost normally on a streak, because like good energy, good vibes, good things that happen attract more good things. So when you're mad about getting a parking ticket and then you're pissed and you're driving, your chances of getting in an accident are just higher because your vibe is like down.
Yeah.
So like normally when you're positive and your energy's high, there's a lot of high vibration things that continue to happen for you. So I think what's super important, and if you could take anything from this, is that when something negative happens, make sure to trick your mind and go back to that high vibration so that it stops at one and it doesn't continue. Because most of the time, more things happen because we're in that mindset.
So true.
If you're like aware, like, okay, I'm not going to make this ticket bother me and like ruin my entire day. Like something really good's going to happen to me. Like, I don't know what, but like, just like good vibes, whatever. I'm not dying. I have my health. Like, it's just a parking ticket, whatever. I'll make that $100 tomorrow. Like, even if you don't know how and why and when it's going to get fixed, like just putting that out, and then you almost start to believe you're like, hey, like I got this. I own this life. Like I have the power to do whatever I want. Then like that vibration will like cut whatever was coming that was bad, I think.
For sure. And it also just like everything you said just puts you in a place where you have way more power and control over your life.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you feel like life is doing you and you're not doing life, that's when you get into a problem, because you just feel like things happen to you. And I feel like that's the totally wrong way to live life. Things don't happen to you.
Yeah.
Very rarely do things happen to you. You actually need to go out and seek out things, and you need to achieve things, and you need to work for things. And yeah, sometimes shit will for sure happen, but very rarely do like things that are worth happening just happen, you know?
Manifest it, bitch. I think well, everyone knows here, if you are an OG listener, then you know Veronica and I are huge manifestors. But I think most importantly, it's to learn that nothing is just going to be handed to you unless you go get it. And sometimes you're on a path and you're like, why am I even in here? Like, what's the purpose? And sometimes it's like, yeah, it's not exactly what you want to be doing, but then once you're already doing something, it leads you to your next step. So just trust the process. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've ever really spoken about this, but do you believe in life that everything that happens for a reason?
It's such a hard question for
Yeah.
me to answer because my two beliefs are like contradicting.
And I think
We spoke about how
we
it's
could speak about it again because
Yeah.
it kind of goes with like today's topic, but I feel like whenever I'm like getting to know a guy or like I'm talking to someone, almost always one of my questions will always be like, do you believe everything happens for a reason? I think you really get to know someone's like core values and what they believe and how they look at life just by that one question.
Right.
Remember how you were like, Alette, what do you ask a guy? I don't know, what drink are you drinking? Now I'm like, all of a
You're
sudden,
like,
now
where
all of a
does the moon hit the
no,
stars?
now I'm like all of a sudden Oprah. So I just see it as like, if you believe everything happens for a reason, then you do not fall under the category that your life is in your hands. And I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that because they're like, well, no, everything happens for a reason, but then I also choose my path. But it's like, it's not how it works. You
Yeah.
don't get to choose your path and then say everything happens for a reason. If you fall into the category of everything happens for a reason, that your path has already been chosen for you. And as much as you're taking a left turn or a right turn, it's already been chosen. Yes, you are physically making the decision, but the decision has already been made for you. And I think a lot of people don't like to live in that, in that mindset of like,
Yeah.
well, then do I even have control of my life?
Yeah.
Like is it in the control of someone else? Then at that point, let me just sit back and not do anything. But I know many people don't.
But then it's like,
what's the reason for living?
well, no.
When you think of it that way. But I also think it doesn't make me any less. I think it makes me, how I always tell everybody I'm numb to situations. I realize that it's not that I'm numb to situations. I'm just accepting in situations. It's also a better word. Numb is like, I don't feel pain. Nothing gets to me. I think just like learning to accept what has happened.
Yeah.
So no more numbness in my life. It's acceptance. It's just learning that you cannot control something
Yeah.
and just letting things fall into place the way they're supposed to.
But then how can you say, and this is where my mindset
Yeah.
contradicts as well, is like, if you say everything happens for a reason, then
Yeah.
technically you can't manifest anything because what you're manifesting should be already something that's supposed to happen to you. So
Yeah.
that's where it gets tricky. The way that I see it,
Yeah, but you can still manifest and also believe that your path is chosen. Yeah,
technically not though, because if you're manifesting, you're like manifesting outside of like what you have. You're like,
but then
I'm gonna
also have the mentality of like, well, I know it's already going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't live in a world where like my dreams are not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm working on them. My dreams have to happen. There's no other route.
Yeah.
So when you live in that mentality of like, there's no other route, then it's like, okay, well, it's just a matter of when and how, but I'm okay with not knowing that because my path is chosen for me, but just waiting.
So I don't believe that my path is chosen for me, but I
Okay.
do believe everything happens for a reason. And you know how they say like, but I'm going to explain myself as to like how it makes sense. But you know how they say like life only makes sense if you live it backwards? You know, like
Okay.
if you live life backwards, you'll understand why everything happens
Yeah.
for a reason, which is so true. But I do think we live our lives and we have total control over what happens in our life. And
Do you have
The
control or
way-
do you think you have control?
the thing is like, every time you make a decision, it's like every time you walk through a door, there's 3 more doors that are opening for
Yeah.
you. But you could have walked through the other door and there would have been eons of doors that would have been there because everyone has, let's say, a path, but you can choose any way you want to go. So yeah, there's some kind of map out there. You have to make this. It's kind of like, fucking Goosebumps books. It's like turn to page 11 if you want to go through the door, turn to page
Yeah.
here. So it's like you choose your story. Yes, there's all these options, but like I truly believe that you're in control and you can make a difference in your life. And I do believe that like when something happens, you will find out later why that happened. Even if it's something insignificant, it'll make sense later because everything always makes sense in the grand scheme of things. If I fall
But
and
I'm
break
agree-
my leg now, it's going to seem insignificant, but later down the line, I'm going to realize why I need to take that 6 months off work, but it's all going to work out because I lived my life forward, right? It's all going to make sense just because I'm going the way I'm going. But no matter which direction I change, it'll still always make sense because There will still always be a reason for why that needed to happen, but the reason might change.
Okay.
But there will always be a reason for why everything happens.
So I still think that X, Y, and Z doors that are open, whether you choose X, Y, or Z, if you believe everything happens for a reason, then it's still, no matter what path you choose, it's still bringing you to where you're supposed to be. So like, as much as you think those 3 other doors open, those 3 other doors were already part of your plan.
Right.
So like, yeah, you think it's part of your plan. Like you think you're making the decision, but technically there could be a million doors. It's just the door you choose is the door that's been chosen. And it's such a bad... Like, it's all how you look at it. I don't look at it in a negative way. Like, oh my God, like, I'm going to, like, stop doing work because, like, I just decided I'm not going to do work and it's not even me making the decision. So why the hell am I even, like, working towards something,
absolutely.
you know? But I think we're all put on this earth to be something and to do something. And for everyone, it's different. But I think that's already been ingrained in our timeline before we were even born. It's, like, kind of, like, weird, but... So all I'm saying is that you cannot say everything happens for a reason if you don't agree with my path. Then it doesn't make sense. So like you can't say that and then also say, I believe like everything happens for a reason, but then I'm also choosing my path. No, then if you believe you're choosing your path, then you don't believe everything happens for a reason. But you believe that you're creating your own path.
So then you don't believe in manifestation.
So then
everything you're saying is going against manifesting.
No.
You're like, so I'm a liar.
No.
I'm telling you, because the idea of manifestation is that you can create your own reality and you can create anything you want. And like, but it's in your power.
Yes.
Whereas in your mentality, and not saying that it's right or wrong, it's just like to have the belief that like everything is already chosen for you would imply that you cannot manifest anything you want because your path is already chosen for you.
But do you ever feel like you were born a star, like from the beginning, like you were a star. You were supposed to be a star. Like you felt it from when you were young. It's almost something that like was created inside you. So it's like almost like it's part of your path. Like that's, I'm not trying to say like I'm a star, but I'm trying to say like what I've always wanted was still what I wanted when I was young. So it's like everything I'm doing happens for a reason because it's bringing me to where I am supposed to be as my human being self.
Yes, but there's millions of people that are born thinking I'm going to be a star and then they do nothing to get themselves there. And they had this belief so strong, but they got nowhere because they didn't do, you know, what you're doing now, which is actually putting effort and chasing the dream and chasing the goal and actually like, you know, making the effort to make that happen.
But then it wasn't part of their path. How many people become successful being actresses that never even put in the work and just got that luck automatically?
But I'm saying just because you,
some people,
just because
it's what you always wanted, but it wasn't part of your path.
I know, but I'm saying just because you want that and just because you believe that your whole life doesn't mean that you'll ever achieve that. Like just knowing it is not enough to be there. Because there's so many people that have been like, I know I'm going to be this. And then like they never achieve it because they never do what they need to do to get there. But it's just like, it's tough because in order to believe that you can create your own reality, you need to like,
you can't think like me in order. You can only think like me if you're doing already everything in your power to get to where you want to get to. If you have my mentality, but you're not doing anything about it, then it's not a way to live.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
When I normally tell people I'm manifesting, it's like, duh, this is supposed to happen. So it's like, I don't even know if manifesting is the word when it's like, it feels so real and like, it's what it's supposed to be. That it's almost like not even manifesting. It's just like, well, if that's my path, that's my path.
Right.
I'm kind of living, and that goes with me living a spontaneous life where I'm like, whatever will be, will be. So I think it just goes with like, I'm okay with the unknown and I'm okay with the spontaneous, like whatever will be. And that's why it's like, I don't know. Everything happens for a reason. I'm going to do what I have to do. But like, if my path is supposed to be that, it will. If it's not, it won't.
Okay. So in this episode, we realized that men do a lot of toxic things, you know? And we don't ask for much, you know? Don't be toxic and shave your balls. I mean, it's pretty simple, honestly. Please.
If you can follow that guideline, man, you are on your key to success.
You are on the way to success. So
if you're still going to be toxic, then at least make sure your balls are shaved.
You know what? That's great advice. If you're going to, you know, give a girl trauma and be toxic, at least make sure that when she goes down on you, She's not literally in a forest,
Yeah.
you know? So guys, check out Manscaped because they have literally everything that you need to be, you know, trimmed, shaven, smelling good, smooth, so many products. You know, the men in my life have given me great reviews on it. So you should join them and head on to Manscaped and also use our discount code.
Guys, we all know that a forest can be scary. So to avoid that, head on to manscaped.com and use our discount code ChemicalX at checkout to receive 20% off your entire order and free shipping. It's a win-win for everybody.
So then how would you deal with if like you would find out now that you're not going to achieve your dreams? If you would see, like if somebody would show you a paper and be like, this is where you're going to end up.
That's just life. You can't.
But what would you, well, I know, but how would you feel? If literally fucking, I don't know what would happen right now and you'd have like this, just here's a preview of your future and it would be like, you're not going to achieve your dreams. How would you feel?
So no one's going to believe me, but I would still continue doing what I'm doing.
Because you believe that you can change
Because I believe
reality.
That it's literally my path.
But like, let's say.
Because I don't want to live in a world where like, I'm also like accepting the fact that it's not going to be, and then I'm just going to live miserable for the rest of my life. Like the in denial, the delusional part of just like knowing and still like continuing to go is just what I'm going to do. Because then what do I have left if I don't do that?
I know. But all I'm saying is like, if you would know for a fact that on your path, you wouldn't make it, would you still try?
Yes.
So then you, to some degree, believe that you can change.
No, it's
your
just
path.
like living a life where I'm not fucking immortal.
I know.
Like,
but like,
if I don't have anything going on, then what's the point of living?
yeah. But I'm not saying you don't have anything going on. It's just like, I tell you right now, you're never going to achieve your dreams for a fact. Don't you think that you would try everything in your power to still try and like somehow change that? Like there must be something that I can do to change this outcome.
But I'm not like I'm trying to change the outcome. I'm just like for my own self and my mental health.
I'm just going to keep going.
I'm just going to keep going because what do I have left if I don't have that? I don't need to know where my path is supposed to take me. I just got to go for the ride and see. And then I'll read my life backwards.
So if you had the chance to see in the future, if you had the chance to go 50 years in the future, would you take it?
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't want to either.
I don't want to.
But then it's like, if I would go into the future and know, it's tough because it's like, I wouldn't want to because I'd be so afraid to see something I don't want to see and like somehow that like fucks up how I'm being now. But then it's like, maybe I do need to see that in order to like make the changes I need to make in order to not get there. But then it's also like, what if I get there and see that everything that I'm doing actually pays off and I should just keep going? Like, it's like so...
But the thing is, it's like you thinking it's going to pay off versus like knowing it's going to pay off.
Yeah. But
like you can tell me now, you can read your whole life story and like you're not going to make it and I won't even believe it.
yeah.
Because it's like, well, that is my path. I don't know how I'm getting there. I have no fucking idea what's going to bring me there, where I'm going. I just know at some point it's all going to link because everything happens for a reason. Like they even say, like, I hear like business guys who talk and they're like, you know, a lot of times people are like, well, how do I get involved in this? And how do I get that? He's like, it'll literally just come. Like you don't have to outlook for it. It's going to come when you're on that path. It'll literally bring it to you.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
Like you don't go, like the best connections and stuff don't normally come because you're like, yeah, you put yourself in situations, but they come because you're around what you're already doing.
I think that's why it's so hard to give like advice
Well,
sometimes
that's why
because it's like,
yeah.
it's like you just need to do and it'll happen naturally. Like obviously there's decisions that you can make to make it better and make it easier and push yourself forward. But sometimes it's just like you just need to work on it and like bring yourself to a certain place and that'll open up like new doors for those opportunities to happen.
I think that happened for us too. Like so many things were like, what the hell? And then, oh,
Yeah.
okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense at the beginning, but everything kind of makes sense eventually.
I just think that for some people, that mentality.
Oh, people are gonna freak when they hear mine.
No, I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people
many
think like
people
that.
agree like this.
I mean, it's actually a very religious way to think.
really.
Yeah, like the whole, the whole, like, for example, like most religions are based off the like God has a plan for you, and like whatever happens is like in God's plan for you, and like you don't necessarily have control over it. So it's kind of like a mentality that's fairly based off like religious beliefs. So I would actually think many people do have that belief. I would think it's like pretty common, but I think sometimes
people will be religious but then also probably fall under your plan, and they think they have like both.
I think sometimes people like the comfort of knowing that they're not making a bad decision. Like they like the comfort of like whatever happens is actually kind of out of my hands.
Like you wash your hands type of thing.
It's just like, it's not me, it's God or it's life or it's the universe, or like it's not me making the decision.
Interesting. I never looked at it that way. Like I don't think of it as like washing my hands. I think of it as like, why am I going to control something that in the end is not my decision? But that's like fuck.
But I think there's more stress living with the idea that you are in control
1000%
versus living with some kind of like faith that it's just going to happen the way it needs to happen. That soothes your worries and soothes your stress. And I think actually, just speaking about religion a little bit, I think like religion is a really good way to like satisfy your fears. So for example, like not knowing what happens after death, not knowing these certain things. I think religion will often fill that void of like things we don't have the answers to. It gives us something to hold on to and something to believe in, right? Because like it's a belief. So I think in that same way, it kind of like lets go of the stress of like, this is all on me, you know, and like every decision I make matters. I think it lets go a little bit of that stress and puts you more in this, like, I'm just going to like live life and see where it takes me. Yeah. Versus when someone truly believes that like it can go two ways. If you believe like you have your whole life in control, you can feel very empowered to like bring it to the top, but you can also feel like, oh my God, this is so much of a burden. Like I don't know how to like deal with the stress of the fact that like I control my life. So I think both mentalities have like pros and cons for depending on the person. Yeah. Like you can either like do really well with that mentality or like do really not well with that mentality for either of them.
I was listening to Shay Mitchell on Call Her Daddy podcast. I don't know if you watched it, but I never related more to someone in my entire life. Like she was talking and I was like, that's me. Like just like, she's like, whatever happens will happen. Why are you going to have sleepless nights? Why are you going to try and like just hold on to something? If he cheats, you let go and you walk away and you continue your life. You're not dead. You continue, you move on, you carry on. Like, I'm like, wow, like that is my energy. It's just like, I don't have the energy to like put into something that I don't know what it's going to be. I'm just going to trust in faith and trust that my path is already chosen and I'm on my path right now. And everyone else is on their own path. And like, maybe you don't have to live every day and be like, oh my God, I'm going left or I'm going right. Yeah. Did I really make that decision? It's like, because people who believe that their path has been chosen think that regardless, whether they choose left or right, it's still bringing them to where they need to be. Yeah. So you're still in control. You're making your decision, but you're also trusting in faith and you believe that your path is going to bring you where it's supposed to. Right. Which is, there's so much ease in that. Yeah. Like, why am I going to stress about everything in life when I'm doing everything and if the podcast isn't meant to be and it's supposed to be something else, it'll bring me to my next project. But like, love doing it, but what will be, will be.
Wait. Guys, I think we're breaking up. Sorry.
No, but it's funny. I think we have the same mind, like we have the same mentality of like everything's gonna work out, but different.
Goal oriented. So you're like, why don't you fall under my?
No, I don't think that.
No,
I'm saying I don't. I'm not looking at your mentality as like what the fuck. I'm saying we both have the same like goal, but just like different mentalities on like how we're gonna reach it. Like for me, it's like I have that belief of like I know I'm gonna be where. Like there's no, you could never tell me like you're not gonna make. I'd be like, I don't agree. Like I will work every day for the rest of my life until I am where I need to be. I don't care if it's at 40 or if it's at fucking 80 or if it's tomorrow. Like, but then I'll never stop.
But then it's like, what if what you thought you wanted isn't what you want in the end?
Then that's okay.
Well, then
because I'm gonna change. I'm changing as I'm going. Like the more I live my life, but
you're also accepting at the fact that what you maybe have wanted is gonna change depending on what happens into your life.
Yeah, but depending on the decisions I make and where I go. Like there's a million ways I could have changed my life, you know? Like there's a million things that I could have not done or that I could have done that would have absolutely changed like largely
you don't feel
on where
like
I
in
am.
the root of like yourself, like that you right now are on the path of where you're supposed to be.
I don't resonate with it as hard as you're saying. For me, I'm just like, I'm here right now. Everything I'm doing, there's going to be a reason for it. I just don't know what it is yet. And it'll make sense as I go. Because whatever's going to happen, there will be a reason for it. Whether the reason changes, yes or no, there will be a reason associated to it.
But don't you feel like in that sense, you're kind of like controlling too much and you're not allowing for things to happen because you're trying too much to like control your destiny, when it's like if you let go of it, you're kind of just you're allowing the manifestation in. If that makes sense.
It's because I don't feel like I'm definitely more so controlling, but I don't feel like I'm only doing this because it needs to get me to this one. Like I'm very open with my goals. Like I'm like, I know what I want. It's just like I'm happy with whatever is going to take me there. I'm happy being here right now. I'm happy doing what I'm doing because it makes me happy. So that's okay.
So as a kid, what did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a pop star.
Okay.
I just wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a singer.
Okay. So as different as that path is, don't you think it's still kind of linked?
I wanted to be an entertainer, which is weirdly enough.
Okay, you start with that and make my point valid.
I'm saying like I wanted to be all these things was like because I like to entertain people. So I think the craziest thing if I look at my life is like as a kid, I always wanted that, but it's very like kiddie, right? And then like as I grew up into like a different personality and I wanted like wildly different things. And only like in the past like couple of years did I really fall back into who I was as a kid. And I know that sounds really weird, but I never felt
Did you take
more.
some drugs? Ayahuasca. Are you ever going to do that in your life?
Never in my life.
Okay.
But I just feel like I'm now more aligned ever with like who I was as a kid and like kind of my true self.
Oh my
like
God,
I feel really aligned.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like in the past I was not really doing things to be like an entertainer, and I always felt like, oh, this is like what I feel like the happiest doing, but it didn't make sense. Like, how will I ever entertain people?
You're answering my question.
I know, but I'm just saying like
because look, you went into so many different things, and you're saying I could go into different doors that will bring me different places, and you did exactly all of that, and you still got led into entertainment, and you didn't go those paths. That's what I'm saying. Everything happens for a reason.
But I led myself here,
and you ended up in entertainment.
But I'm saying like I led myself here. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like I'm back here now, and I'm so grateful and happy for like the growth and like how it's kind of like full circle. But like I also do believe that like I had a play in getting here. Like I also think that like let's say I would have decided to stay in Australia. Like, would I have ever been doing what I'm doing now? Maybe later in life, maybe I would have done something differently. Maybe I would have been. But it's just like every decision, I do feel like it has an impact. Maybe, I was born to be an entertainer. Maybe I would have been a fucking news person. Who's to know?
Your path could have been you're working at McDonald's, and it still would have led you to what you were meant and born to do. Because no matter what door you would open, it would still lead you to the door that was entertainment, regardless if you were fucking working at McDonald's. That's my point. And you were not even going that path, and you ended this path. Well, you're still on your path, but like you could still be a news reporter. That's just the thing. Like you don't know.
I know I don't know, but it's just like I'm not stuck to, like I said, I'm just doing what makes me happy. So whatever I'm doing, and if it changes, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
so then you're with me. You're with
but
me.
I don't know why you're trying to change my mind.
I'm trying to change you.
I just like, I understand what you're saying. 100%. And I agree with the way you like view it. I just feel like I live my life with a little more like I have control over my decisions. Like, and I also feel more pressure when I make decisions, because for me, the weight of my life is on every single decision I make, which you probably don't feel. So for me, every time I make a decision, I'm like, I'm about to change my entire life right now in decision. Like I constantly feel like the weight of my life with every decision I make. And that's why I find it really hard for me to make decisions, because I'm always like, am I ready to do this? What's going to happen after this? Like I'm changing my life. Like I'm giving up this life. So
interesting.
I guess like that's how I see it.
Sense.
So I guess it's like, that's like the main difference is just like how deep and scary decisions are, because for you have this knowledge like whatever decision I make, like it's still gonna work out, it's fine. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'm about to change my life. Like
Yeah.
I need to be so sure about this before I do it.
I wonder, like, there's definitely pros and cons to both of them.
100%.
Like, you know?
I just think whatever makes you feel better
Yeah.
is what you should do. And I think if it scares you to feel like you have all the control, then live your life in a way where you're kind of like letting life take you where you need to be. Obviously still put in effort, obviously still make the steps to achieve your goals. But like if that makes you feel better, then that's fine. And if it scares you to feel like you don't have control of over your decisions,
then don't follow any of my
then
rules.
don't like believe, like you don't have to believe that. You can believe whatever you want to believe.
Well, I just think I don't want people to be like, well, I agree with Alessia, but then I'm also going to sit down and like wait for my life to happen.
Yeah.
Yes, your life is going to happen the way it's supposed to happen, but you still don't want to live life in a way where you're just like waiting on something.
Mm-hmm.
You got to still like, I don't know, find purpose in your life.
But then it's like, let's say we go with that mentality. Let's say I'm like, okay, my life is going to happen to me, let's say. And like tomorrow I just like sit on the couch and I never do anything because I'm just like waiting for the opportunity to happen. Then would my path be that like that's what is supposed to happen? Like not my dreams?
well, you were supposed to have this conversation with me, and then having this conversation made you rethink everything. And then after that, you just had an epiphany, and then it was part of your path. You were supposed to be like, oh my God, the lights went on. What am I doing? Next chapter. But you were supposed to have this conversation with me. I sound like a fucking like.
I feel like you're gonna pass me a Bible or something soon. Like,
you know how sometimes you're like, I feel like you can like tell the future. Like you're very like in tune. I feel like this is what it has to do with. Like I just had a moment of like, oh my God, that thing is gonna happen, and now I'm just scared waiting for it to happen because I know it's going to happen, and like it scares me how sometimes I feel like I could like read the future.
but then are you just creating your future by believing it's going to happen because you're manifesting it? Like, let's say you'd be like, this is going to happen. Are you creating
Maybe.
it yourself?
Maybe.
So like the thing is, it's like we can never know, because if anything, you're just like, let's say manifestation is what really works. Okay. You believing that your path is set out for you and that you know this is what's going to happen, you're actually going to create it yourself by just solely believing that it's going to happen because your path is chosen for you. But naturally, you actually technically manifest that.
But
so it's like you'll never
Right.
have the answer,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
But I just don't think in life you'll be able to manifest anything you strongly believe in and don't let go of. So that's where I feel like when you believe in like faith and things happening for a reason, you're able to let go of something you want because you're like, okay, well, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And a lot of times people have a hard time getting things into their life or manifesting things because they hold on to it so deeply. They want it so bad that they cannot actually like let it go.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like the saying, like set it free. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. If it comes back, it was always yours. If it doesn't, it wasn't yours. It wasn't your path.
I feel like you just attempted to convert me to
I think
something. I don't know.
I think I might have hypnotized you. But you know what though? I completely agree with everything you're saying. And I think it works for you and goes with your personality. And I think mine, like if you really think about our personalities, our beliefs make so much sense.
Yeah.
If you really think
I just think
about
we have
it.
to change the coasters to say you actually have no control over your life, and manifesting doesn't work.
The only thing is like, can I say I'm a manifester? 'Cause
I don't think you can. I actually think
I
that
actually
for the
think
rest
that's
of the
one place
podcast,
you fucked me. You're
like I actually think you're not allowed to say that anymore.
But I just like, I don't understand why you can't be both.
Because the belief of manifesting is that you're creating your future, versus your belief is that you're just like, you just know it's going to happen because it's already written out for you. So maybe just I think what you're saying still stands, just maybe manifesting is not the word. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then what would it be? Because why can't I like manifest
Believing?
Why can't I believe the life I'm gonna have and also like go towards it?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, technically manifesting is like creating it if it kind of maybe wasn't going to happen.
But is it creating it? Because it's also letting it go. The true root of manifesting is being able to acknowledge it's something you want and then also choosing to let it go. So if you're learning to be able to let it go, then you are putting it into the faith of, I don't want to say God, but like faith of whoever you believe in, higher power, So
universe.
I don't know if you can't be a manifester and then also believe that.
Let's
your
Google it. I feel like
path-
Google has the answer for everything.
Yeah.
I feel like if I Google this,
I
it'll
feel
tell
like
me.
if our 145 episodes, this was really deep. Like, I feel like we're just going to make everyone just be like, what is life? Who am I?
Can you believe in?
I'm going to sit down today because Alessia told me my path has already been chosen.
This is the longest Google search I've ever done.
I don't even know what you're Googling, but they won't.
I just Googled and it's for sure not going to show up. Can you believe in manifestation and also believe everything happens for a reason? Basically says,
What does it say?
it's weird. It's like everything does happen for a reason because of the law of attraction. You will attract to you whatever the strongest thought in your subconscious mind is. That is the reason for things going the way they do. The law of attraction is a law, just like gravity. It works whether you are intending it to or not, whether you believe it or not. A law is just a law. Obviously, this is just another belief, but it's basically just saying like your path that you think is chosen for you is actually just you manifesting it. Because it's like the law of attraction, because you believe so hard that's going to happen that like in subconsciously you make it happen.
Deep.
Who did I convert here? Me or you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my God, I feel like I need to end this before you have a mental breakdown.
Well, no. I'm just, yeah.
It's just you'll kind of never have the answer though it could be both. It could be either or, but either way it kind of brings you to where you want to be, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Is the bigger picture of this.
Like the lights are around me and I'm like, what is my
I
life?
feel like you've just been trying to do that to me for the past half hour and
No.
now it backfired and happened to you.
People are going to be like, are they tripping? Are they on drugs? Like, what's
What'd you just accuse me of? Ayahuasca?
I would probably do that once in my life.
Enjoy.
Not now, but at some point later on. See, this is we're two different people. I'm like, would you ever do it? Veronica's like, no. I'm like, maybe. We'll see.
Listen, I've heard exactly what goes on when you do that shit, and I don't want to sign up for it. I don't need to see.
But I also
nothing.
heard that like you're a different person after that, and like you realize your place on earth. Honestly,
I'm happy with myself. I know my place on earth.
Okay.
It's to be a millionaire.
Look, me saying maybe I'll do it is just not closing the idea of like, who knows? I don't know.
So I'm a fucking bitch, and I close off all the ideas, right? Yeah. Good.
Listen to me.
I'm just like, I'm leaving the door open. Like, I don't want to be so negative as others in this room, the negative ones who close off all the doors.
Yeah. But last thing I'll say about victim mentality, because it kind of ties everything together, is that you're like, victim, we've been done with that baby a long time ago. Is that normally people who don't have a victim mentality and are like amazing like listeners and won't truly like agree with you. I think we're really like this. Like we won't necessarily agree, but we'll be able to like understand someone's point of view. And someone who has victim mentality cannot do that. They cannot see anything other than their side.
Yeah.
And I think someone who's out of that circle will be able to be like, I hear you. I see why 1 + 1 is 2 for you, but this is why 0.5 times 4 for me is 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is 0.4 times 5 2?
0.5 times 4, I said.
Oh, okay.
Still equals 2. Like, I'm trying to say, like, we still come to the common denominator. It's just how we get there that's completely different.
Yeah.
Like, you're choosing your path, and I'm just allowing my path to happen. Because I'm such a big manifester that I make it happen subconsciously. That's fucking deep. I need a minute. I need an ayahuasca trip.
That's gonna be booking to Peru any day now. Okay, guys. Well, sorry if I created an existential crisis. Actually, sorry if you created an existential crisis because I did not bring this up. I had a whole nother thing planned, but guess we'll never know, huh?
You know,
the path is not always set out for you. Our
like
lives instead. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully, you made it to the end of this and you're not calling your therapist or having a breakdown. Or maybe you realize you're a victim. You're a victim to your own life. Hopefully this was helpful. And see you next week. Bye. See ya. I gotta go. My path is chosen. The universe said we would end at this minute.